paint stream, talking about material conditions. This is a continuation of a series. I've got a couple of videos out on Politics 100. I already covered the labor theory of value in brief, and a little brief discussion on the political compass, what the axes mean and what it's useful for. So right now we're going to be talking about material conditions, and just to kind of get a basis for it, let's look at what the great Wikipedia has to say. Historical materialism, that's the theory term for it. It's a methodology that focuses on societies and their development through history, arguing that it's material conditions rather than ideals that cause events. So basically what this means is that if there is an event, like Vosh, I will use the text tool because I'm not good at drawing. There's an event, and this event had causes. So for instance, the example I used earlier about the votes for Bernie Sanders. It wasn't that people didn't want to go out and vote, it was that the voting places were closed, the voting lines were super long because the voting places were closed, but also because there was a great deal of motivation for people on both neoliberal side and the populist side. There was a great deal of enthusiasm to have both sides go out. But essentially what this means is that you can't look at an event in isolation. You can't look at an event and think that that tells you everything about it. All events are related to what came before. But material analysis is something that we apply in many instances. It's the basis of criminal investigation. If there's a crime, like someone gets killed, and you want to find out what happened, they don't just stop at, well, it was Steve. Steve did it. We have to look at why did Steve do it, because even if we have evidence that he did it, you generally still have to prove motive. But when it comes to historical events, often what happened before that gets ignored. And as another historical example, the Triangle Shirtwaist fire, which was a fire that happened 1911, so it was almost exactly 100 years ago, 110 years ago. This was caused by the owners locking the doors to prevent people from going outside. And then a fire broke out and they couldn't get out. So almost the entire factory burned to death. The deadliest industrial disaster in the history of New York, and one of the deadliest in U.S. history. Now, a lot of people will try to point blame at the owners because they were locking the doors so that people couldn't get out, which some people might blame on the workers for trying to go out, but ultimately the fault lies with the owners who locked the doors. But blaming the owners, or the workers, either one, ignores the society that created that, made it so that so that the owners could treat their workers like property and say, no, you're here, you're going to stay here to work, you're not going to leave, you're not going to do anything. And want to make sure of that by locking the doors. It lets them off the hook by ignoring the conditions that led to them having that power and them taking that action. So the important thing about material conditions is that they affect everything in life, and that when you're considering a situation, when you're considering an event, a thing that happened in the past, you really need to consider what happened to the people, the places, the events leading up to the event you're investigating. Because if you don't, if you just look at an event in isolation, you may come to the wrong conclusion and think that Bernie can't drive people out, when in fact they are being driven out. It's just that there are other events that are hampering their actions. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked it, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. See you next time.